Hello everybody, this is Zaxter99. Another free game. This one's coming from Steam. Just came out today. The Sad Story of Emmeline Burns. This is like a female protagonist game, I believe. But we're going to find out what this game's about and if this game's any good. Already getting a couple of really good reviews on Steam. But for free, I figured I'd go ahead and give it a try and see what this game's about and take you guys along with me. So I'll be right back right after this for our playthrough of The Sad Story of Emmeline Burns. Alright, welcome back everybody. I want to go ahead and show you guys the options if you would. You got full screen, you got transitions, skip on or off, after choices, keep skipping, stop skipping. You got text speed, auto forward, music, and sound effects. So we're going to go ahead and just leave all that alone and jump back and begin this game. Alright. And I haven't played this at all yet, so you're going to be getting my first experience, my first, feedback and impressions of this game right along with you as you watch. My name is Tama Andrews, and I am the victim of identity theft. It's all Aunt Catherine's fault. Of course, most things are, according to Mom. Stealing Mom's favorite dress when they were both schoolgirls was bad enough, but stealing the name of her first and only daughter? Now that's a low not many of us can sink to within our lifetimes. Her name was supposed to be Amelia. Mom has always loved the name Amelia, though I don't know why. She wanted to call me Amelia if I was a girl, and Thomas if I was a boy, after her father. And then Aunt Catherine ruined everything. Oh no, the darned Aunt Catherine. Aunt Catherine fell pregnant with her first child around the same time my mom found out she was going to have me. Their due dates were also very similar, only a few weeks apart. Though Mom and Aunt Catherine have never been particularly close, they spent more time together during their twin pregnancies than they had done over the last decade. They attended the same hospital. For their checkups, they went to the same support group at the Civic Center, and their rocky relationship improved over complaints about bladder infections, morning sickness, and uncontrollable cravings for anchovies, Mom, or smoked cheese for Aunt Catherine. That's funny. And then Aunt Catherine stole my name. Damn her. Aunt Catherine is 1 year younger than my mom, but she's always got things first. That's what Mom told me. She was the first to have her period, to pierce her ears, and to have a serious boyfriend. Alright, so she was the first to have her period? I mean, is that really something to brag about? Okay. She was the first to have a baby, too. A baby girl. A girl named Amelia. Mom didn't know what to do, having her dream name stolen away from her so suddenly. She had half a mind to confront Aunt Catherine about it, but didn't in the end. She had only just begun to repair her relationship with her sister, and she didn't want to ruin it. Man, that's kind of messed up, though, if you're a sister and you know that your sister has always wanted to name her kid Amelia, or whatever name, and then you get pregnant and have your kid a couple weeks beforehand and you steal the name. That's kind of wrong. I mean, that is kind of messed up. I can see why this girl's like kind of all over Aunt Catherine, her aunt, her mom's sister. Okay. But she was still annoyed. She just didn't want to ruin the relationship that they had worked to develop while they were both pregnant. I can understand that. And I'm not even a girl. I'm not even a woman. So she was still annoyed about it, and she still is, years later, When this girl here that's talking about it, her mom's still annoyed about it. Mom could have called me Amelia anyway, but the name didn't feel special to her anymore. Not when Aunt Catherine had used it. Well, yeah, why would you want to call your kid the same name as, your niece? The name your sister picks for her kid. You wouldn't do that. That'd be messed up. I think Aunt Catherine's wrong to steal her name. That is messed up. In the end, after much deliberation, Mom decided to go with her second option. Thomas. Thomas? For a girl? What? Since I was a girl, however, Thomas was out of the question. Was there a female variant of Thomas? What is that? Thomas and Nia? Thomas Andrea? Thomasetta? That's funny. Maybe not. There was Tama, however. Tama Andrews. Okay, well, I kind of like that. And that's how I got my name. That might explain why I don't like it very much. My name isn't really mine. Like clothes that are 2 sizes too big. It doesn't fit me properly. It never has. That's because it was never intended for me. If I'd been called Amelia, would my life be any different? Would it change who I am? I don't know, because I've never been an Amelia. Just a Tama, the weird girl with a weird name. And my name isn't the only weird thing about me. Ever since I can remember, my mom has been obsessed with family history. She says it's like playing detective, peeking back into the past with only fragments of information, trying to find the truth. Mom took me to the library with her when I was small, so she could keep a watchful eye over my little blonde head while she delved into the annals of our family long-lost history. There, she would spend hours and hours searching through the online databases and the old archives, on the hunt for articles about the Spencers or the Kendalls or the Lintons or the Becketts or the Bradfords. Fortunately, our family used to be pretty rich back in the day. Mom says it's a lot easier to research your family tree if you come from a wealthy background. There are more records kept on the comings and goings of the rich, as opposed to street beggars and paupers. That's probably because of the money. As soon as money is involved, people will pay attention to you. It was like that back in the 1700s. And it's exactly the same now. I remember that the floor of the library was hard, covered in a dark green carpet that was uncomfortable and scratchy, and the walls were a dull gray, like the concrete blocks in a multi-story car park. Although Mom got me a library card, I always got bored within the first half hour or so. There are only so many times you can reread volumes of Goosebumps. Despite these inconveniences, however, I still found the stories Mom would tell me about my long-dead relatives interesting. The stories sounded like they came from the pages of a book, not real life, not history, my history. There were stories about my great-great-grandfather, Zachary Kendall, who used to be a priest, but was fired from his post after he physically assaulted a member of his congregation while drunk on Christmas Day. There were stories about my great-great-great-grandmother, Maribel Spencer, who ran away from home at the age of 15 to marry her middle-aged piano teacher, Roger Beckett. There were stories about my great-great-great-great-aunt, Rose Bradford, who was rumored to be a witch and claimed she could cure any ache or illness with a sprig of holly. I don't know why, but these stories my mom told me of unknown people from unfamiliar times always resonated with me. Maybe it was because they weren't fictional characters or celebrities, but real people. My family. Part of me. I wouldn't be alive right now without Zachary Kendall, even if he did beat up a member of his congregation, and I wouldn't be alive without Maribel Spencer, even if she did have a thing for older men who could play a semi-decent for a lease. In a way, I owe them. I owe them a lot. I suppose what they say is true. Blood really is thicker than water. And speaking of blood, the local library wasn't the only place my mom's investigations led her. Oh no, that was just the tip of the iceberg. She used to take me to the cemeteries a lot. Not just the cemetery in here, Barrowby All Saints, but cemeteries all across Lincolnshire, and sometimes even further afield, to Yorkshire, or Leicestershire. The thing about family history is, if you get obsessed with it like Mom, birth certificates and death certificates stop being enough. You want to see real evidence of your ancestors' past lives for yourself. Hence, the graveyards. Wow, that's kind of creepy. Lots and lots of graveyards. Every weekend, without fail, my mom would take me on a trip to a graveyard, searching for ancestors. Sometimes we'd turn it into a game. We'd challenge one another to see who could find Rose Bradford's final resting place the quickest. The winner got to choose what we listened to in the car on the way home. Being my mom's daughter, I hated her taste in music, and I was desperate to beat her. I got quite good at finding graves, if I do say so myself. Even though I was around 7 or 8, and my legs weren't as long as my mom's, I was able to beat her 9 times out of 10. That's funny. I used to think she was going easy on me. Now I'm not so sure. I just have talent. I'm good at finding dead people, even if they have been dead for 2 centuries, and all that's left behind are bones. Now, let me just get one thing straight. I'm not crazy. I don't think dead people call out to me or anything. I've never seen a ghost before, excluding the ones in horror movies. I guess it's just a coincidence. But it's a quite strange coincidence. Whenever I went into a graveyard with my mom, I just knew where to look, almost instinctively. My feet just happened to lead me to a tombstone, and via some strange skill I might have inherited from Rose Bradford, the self-proclaimed psychic, I was usually right. That might be why I'm so obsessed with cemeteries, even now. Just like some people prefer hot weather, others cold, I like graveyards. They remind me of my childhood, a fun time spent with my mom, searching for my relatives. When I went out looking for graves with my mom, I was almost always right. Ever since I started attending St. Hugh's College, however, I've only ever felt wrong. Though I get good grades in most of my classes, I'm hopelessly lost when it comes to anything beyond that. I have hardly any friends, other than Hattie, and even she might turn against me if she knew how I felt about her. Ooh. I'm nothing like Amelia Miller, who just so happens to be in the same form as me. She's always surrounded by people. They all love her. Would they love me if I'd been called Amelia instead? I don't know. But I do know, even though it's unfair and ridiculous, and I don't dislike Amelia, I'm still jealous of her. Her parents are still together, and her dad has a good job, and she has nice skin and pretty blue eyes, and she's incredibly popular. I, on the other hand, am awkward and shy, and I can't hold a conversation with anybody other than Hattie. That might be another reason why I like graveyards. There are a lot of people in them, but they can't bother me like they do in school. They're dead, and that's perfectly fine by me. As the saying goes, dead men tell no tales. They only leave tales behind, which we can examine as we see fit. That's why I came to Barrowby All Saints this Friday, instead of catching the bus to go to school. I just wanted some time off, a few moments where I can stop being myself, a person I've never liked. Aw, this is sad. If only I had been born as in Amelia. Then, my life would be so much better. Aw, man, this is sad already. I would be so much better. The day is overcast for early autumn, and a thick layer of fog creeps along the ground. The grass is wet with morning dew, but the soil beneath is firm and hard. I suppose that's to be expected. You wouldn't want to build a graveyard on marshland, where people would run the risk of falling through the earth and into the graves. Oh, that's a good point. I might have an affinity for the dead, but not even I fancied popping in for an unexpected visit with Gerald Fisher, 1843 to 1912, and Emmeline, his wife, of the above. It's cold, too. The wind sneaks down my spine and I shiver. It isn't a rough wind, though. Instead, it's soft, brushing past my cheeks and flowing my hair in almost apologetic manner. The leaves on the trees are dark green, some already turning red and yellow, but the sun in the sky is obscured by clouds, so everything looks gray. My feet crunch over the stray leaves with every step I take, but that's the only sound I can hear. I like that. I like how it gives you the sound effects. Just me, the wind, and the leaves. As I walk through these well-trodden paths, I pause, examining each tombstone that catches my interest. There's something strangely inviting about these old slabs of stone, almost as though they're greeting me. And why wouldn't they? I come here often enough. They should know me by now. Any other mother would probably find their only daughter's obsession with graveyards unsettling. Fortunately, my mom is just as weird as I am, so she doesn't question it. She must know my love of graveyards is all her fault. I nod my head in recognition as I pass each tombstone. Alistair Doncaster, Irene Douglas, Charlotte Draper, Doreen Hughes, Abel Johnson, Genevieve Parsons, Aubrey Wedgwood. I wonder about these people, reduced to nothing more than names and bones. What lives did they lead? Were they happy, sad, or merely amused by all the coincidences which led them into being? For Alistair Doncaster, that happened in 1879, and for Irene Douglas, it was 1894. What was the world like back then, when these people were alive, and their footsteps, not mine, crunched the leaves and fell firmly against the compacted earth? I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine it. As I walk through the graveyard, like Alice sinking into Wonderland, a heavy thought suddenly strikes me. What would it be like if I were already dead? Ooh, creepy. I close my eyes. The cold wind blows across my cheeks, and I swear I can almost smell it. The earth in my nostrils, the scent of decay. Ah. What was that sound? It was almost like a footstep, but that can't be. I'm the only person here, after all. At least I thought I was. Not anymore. Uh-oh. A young girl stands there, her arms held by her sides, her eyes wide and blue. Oh, wow. Her hair is loose, light brown, her fringe cut just above her eyebrows. She wears a white dress, long and modest, which falls to her ankles. Her dress is comprised of a number of layers and looks like something that belongs to another era, another time, an England when Queen Victoria was on the throne, and the horse and carriage were still the main way people got about, and it was socially acceptable to wear bonnets in public. She looks like nobody I've ever seen before, except characters in period dramas. There's something so unrealistic about her appearance, and I can hardly bring myself to believe that she's really real. Maybe that's why I do something I rarely ever do. My curiosity unsticks my throat, and I find myself asking her a question. Uh-oh. Toma, are you going to a costume party? Huh? Are you referring to this old thing? That dress doesn't look like some old thing. It's expensive, right? I believe it was rather dear when Father first purchased it. Now, however, I'm not particularly well versed in the economy, so I cannot give you an answer. Father? What kind of girl calls their dad father? Maybe I'm just biased because my dad vanished before I was even born. Mom told me he couldn't cope with a commitment, which was quite funny, really, because he had no qualms about commitment when he asked me to sleep with him. But father sounds far too dated. And I haven't even touched on the other stuff she said. The girl smiles. Her face remains pale and does not flush, but I can imagine blood coursing beneath her cheeks all the same. She gives the impression of blushing, even though she does not. I suppose most people would use dad nowadays. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with such a phrase, and it sounds quite peculiar to me. And the plot thickens. My questions only seem to invite more questions, and I find myself drawn towards this strange girl despite myself. I want to know who she is. I want to understand her. It must be this feeling, this desperate thirst for hidden knowledge, which encouraged Mom to track down what now remains of Zachary Kendall, Maribel Spencer, Rose Bradford, and the rest. So, I've not seen you around, Barbie, before. Do you live here? I have lived here for a very long time. But you don't look much older than me. I will be 15 years old this December. At least I should be. So, she's 14 too. You say that you've lived here for a long time, but I've never seen you before. You don't go to St. Hugh's, do you? She shakes her head. So, what school do you go to? Ruskin? Sandon? Not Walton girls. She shakes her head again. Then are you homeschooled? That would explain what she's doing in this graveyard at 8:20 on a Friday morning, wearing such a strange outfit she might as well have fled from on one of those ye old-fashioned photography parlor places. I suppose I was homeschooled, yes. I've never been to school before. I used to have Ellie, but I have not seen her in some time. Uh-huh. So we know she's dead. I mean, anybody watching this know that Toma is talking to a girl from the past here. Whether in her imagination or, what is yet to be discovered, I think. But so Toma says, Ellie? A private tutor? Something like that, yes. She was rather strict. She got so angry when I escaped from her stuffy old history lessons and hid over at the Linton's estate. She smiles with a soft, gentle smile, like an old woman with rheumy eyes might when she's recalling a fond memory. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody my age pull a face like that before. Just who is this girl? But you don't have a tutor anymore? There wouldn't be much point anymore. Is she one of those YouTube celebrities then? She looks the part in those clothes. I can imagine her as one of those eccentric, self-proclaimed living dolls who get thousands of subscribers for eating food on camera. Huh. So, I'm sorry. This is the first question I should have asked. What is your name? Emily. Emily. I think I can remember that. It's enough of a common name. There are 2 Emilys in my class, Emily Hargraves and Emily Turner. I don't know if this name fits the girl in front of me though. Emily sounds too simple. Somehow, and unfinished too, like a sentence ending without a full stop. I don't investigate any further, however. I hardly know this girl. What right do I have to ask so many questions? And Emily says, and it would not be too rude, may I inquire as to what I should call you? Oh, I should have expected this. When somebody asks for your name, it's only polite to ask for theirs in return. I don't like answering this question, though. I never have. Just what is my name, anyway? It says Tuma on my birth certificate, but I can't bring myself to believe that. Not when I was fated, before I took my first breath, to be called Amelia. Oh my, do not look so troubled. You will make me feel guilty. I'm sorry. Huh, what a funny girl. You don't need to apologize. She thinks I'm funny, does she? That kind of stings, given how peculiar she looks. You do not need to tell me your name if you do not wish to. We all have our own secrets. Are you sure you don't mind? I'm quite sure. I could just make up a name for you instead. Well, I hope you are not adverse to this suggestion. I rather like giving people nicknames. I would always call Miss Warren Ellie. Her first name was Helena, you see? But she got mad at me because of that, too. This girl has no manners, she would always say. She may have a pretty face, but she behaves like a gutter snake. Not that I gave a button what she thought. Father was paying her enough, so I thought it was best to make her work for her wages. She may have found me irritating, but I certainly wasn't boring. Well, I suppose it's fine. Then I can think of a name for you? Yes, it doesn't bother me. Anything would be better than Toma. Well, let me see. Emily looks me up and down, one finger against her lower lip. Her smile is teasing, and her eyes flash mischievously, like a naughty schoolgirl in an Enid Blyton story. She'll be talking about condensed milk and tin sardines next, I'm sure of it. It is true we do not know one another very well, but that is just in the present. I feel like we could become quite close friends if given the chance. You remind me so much of her after all. Can it be a mere coincidence? Her? I thought so from behind too, but when you turned about it became clearer than ever. You have her nose, and her eyes, maybe even her forehead too. But it's hard to tell, since it's all covered in hair. Well, I look at the ground, suddenly awkward, and dig the tip of my school shoe into the earth. I shift my right foot slightly, making a small indentation in the earth. A minute grave for an ant. I don't know if I like being compared to other people. I do that enough myself. And I say, even if I do look like one of your friends, I don't think I want their name. I was hoping for a name of my own. Of course. You do not need to worry about that. I would never be so callous as to dress you in the title of another. I apologize if it seemed that way. She does sound sorry, too. Truly sorry. And even if you look like her, you are not her. You couldn't be. It is not possible. A sigh. So let me see, a name for you, a name that belongs to you and only to you. Ah, I think I have it. From now on, you can be Verity. Ooh, that's a pretty name, Verity. I like that. Let's see if she does. Verity? Do you like it? It's pretty. Much prettier than my real name. Emily smiles, her face flushing. Though once more, it doesn't really flush. I just imagine that it does, with happiness. I'm so glad. I thought that virtue names might be too anachronistic nowadays, but I truly am fond of them. One of my aunts was called Charity, and my grandmother was Patience. Not that she was particularly patient. She used to hit my father for the smallest misdemeanors when he was a young boy, but that was a long time ago. Her face darkens, but only for a few moments. At any rate, I'm curious. Why are you in a gloomy place like this at such an hour, when you should be at school? Oh, I just like graveyards, I guess. They're relaxing. Relaxing? That is quite a strange thing to say. Why do you think that? Oh, I'm not sure. I just like them. They're nice and quiet. And people don't come here much. When they do, they're quiet too. It's the respectful thing to do. Apart from the local boys who tramp here drunk on Friday nights and piss on the graves and scrawl rude words on them. I glance at a nearby grave. That of an Elijah. Or is it Elisha? Pharaoh. Somebody has scrawled across the top of it, in a black marker pen, God is dead. Man, that's messed up. It seems we have a Banksy of our own living in Barrowby. Who would have thought? And I say, Thomas says, and I like thinking of stories too. Stories? Yes, graves are small, and the people buried underneath them are turned into names and dates, nothing more. I think there must be more to these people than that, though. What were their parents like? Did they have any siblings? What was their job? Were they happy? What about all the people they met, whose lives they may have changed, without them even realizing it? I don't know about all those things. I never will. It's fascinating, but at the same time, it's a little sad. I blush, my hands hanging limply at my sides. Did I say too much? I think I might have said too much. This is why I don't talk to people at school, other than Hattie. It's because I'm weird, and I know my fellow classmates, Emily Hergraves and Emily Turner included, would just laugh at me. Well, maybe Amelia wouldn't. Amelia's too nice to laugh at anybody. That's what I think anyway. It probably sounds stupid though. No, I think you made some good points. I did? Yes, every person has a story, and there is not enough space on a single tombstone to tell it. The sad truth is, there are so many people in this world, it is not possible to remember every single story. As the years go by, they fall by the wayside. The dead must always concede to the whims of the living, even in places like this. Emily looks back at Elijah or Elisha Pharaoh's grave, decorated with a biting political commentary, God is dead, and she sighs. I like thinking of stories too. In fact, I could tell you a story of my own. I have been turning it over in my head for quite some time, and I would be intrigued to hear your response. I wouldn't mind. Are you quite sure? I don't want to bore you. I can't remember the last time anybody wanted to hear what I had to say. No, I'm quite sure I would love to. There was nothing else I wanted to do here anyway. Nothing other than wander, trying to avoid thinking about school next Monday and how much trouble I'd be in when it's discovered I've been playing truant. I always run away from my problems. I have done this ever since I was a child. I must have inherited that admirable trait from my dad. So Emily says, "Well then, if you want to follow me." Emily turns, her hair fluttering, and slips through the graveyard like a shadow. Ooh, creepy. I follow her, curious yet cautious, as she leads me behind the church where the trees are thicker and there are even more graves. She draws my attention to a tombstone, just one tombstone of many. It juts out of the grass like a tooth from a gum, slightly crooked. A few cracks run down its gray sides, and the top of the grave is fringed with pale yellow lichen. The name engraved into the tombstone is a little difficult to see, impressed only shallowly, and written in a cursive hand that makes my eyes hurt. I didn't explore the graveyards of Lincolnshire in my youth for nothing, though, and I'm more skilled than most teenagers when it comes to reading inscriptions on gravestones. Here lies the body of Philip Burns, 1807 to 1851. Also, Perdita Burns, wife of the above, 1811 to 1851. They both died the same year. Also, Emmeline Burns, their beloved daughter, 1836 to 1851. So, age 13 or 14 years old, 14 probably. So they all died at the same time, it looks like. May their souls rest in peace. The Burns, huh? Philip, Perdita, and their daughter Emmeline. I shift suddenly, uncomfortable. Graveyards don't usually make me uncomfortable, but there's something about this tombstone that strikes a discordant note within me. Something here just isn't right. And I say, they all died on the same year. They did indeed, and all on the same day too. I turn away from the grave, the final remnant of the unfortunate Burns family, and bite my lower lip. When I next speak, my voice is barely a whisper, even quieter than the wind. How do you know that? It's just a story. I already told you that. I suppose so, but when Emily said it, it didn't sound like a story. She sounded deadly serious. She looks serious, too. Her eyes are narrowed, her lips pursed, her face stark white, as though carved from stone. The fog swirls about us like a veil. It's even thicker than it was earlier this morning. I can taste the fog at the back of my throat when I inhale, and I cough. It tastes cold, rank, and repulsive. The taste of death. Just who is Emily, anyway? She doesn't look like any girl I know. She doesn't act like any girl I know. Emily, Emmeline, come on. Come on, Toma. I'm almost tempted to believe, but that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? No, I think she knows now. I think she's thinking of it now. Yeah, Emily, Emmeline. So, should I tell you my story? I must warn you, though, it's rather dour. Then again, given our setting, what other kind of story could it be? You should already know how it ends. Aww. Here we go. Emmeline Burns, born in 1836 to Philip and Perdita Burns led a charmed life. Her family was rather well-to-do, her grandfather being a lawyer, her father a banker, and she grew up in a large house with 5 bedrooms on the outskirts of Barrowby. Given her father's profession, a banker, he was often away in London on business. But this did not upset Emmeline. She was old enough to understand that her father needed to work so they could afford her nice house, and her fine clothes, and the ribbon she wore in her hair, and she did not complain. Though she did not see her father for months at a time, when he returned home, it was always with a present for Emmeline, and a kiss on her cheek, and it was as though he had never been away at all. Philip was a kind man. Though he may not have been a paragon of many virtues, he's the runt of the litter. If he were a pig, we would have drowned him in the well, Grandmother Patience always griped. He was not naturally predisposed to the world of financing. He did have a good head on his shoulders, and he was relatively intelligent. Not even Grandmother Patience could deny that. It was through his quick wits, rather than his magnetic charisma, of which he was sorely lacking, that Philip had been able to expand upon the Burns family fortune, and he had invested a good deal of their money into the stock market. Emmeline really did love her father, despite his lack of presence in her life, or maybe because of it. They do say, after all, that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Even when Philip was not at home, Emmeline had a great deal to busy herself with, and she was never bored or lonely. She would help her mother with the embroidery, or exchange idle gossip with the servants, or go for long walks about the countryside, eating blackberries from the hedge-crows, and snagging her dress on brambles. Sounds like fun. Emmeline's long-suffering governess, Helena Warren, certainly had her hands full when it came to disciplining her rowdy pupil. Though Emmeline was not unintelligent, she had been born with the disposition of a sea captain or polar explorer, and she was physically incapable of sitting still for 5 minutes. That is, unless she was with Cornelia Linton. Emmeline and Cornelia had known one another since they were both babies, and they were almost inseparable. They spent most of their walking hours together, sitting by the lakeside in the Littons' private estate. They would stare out across the untroubled waters, which carried along with it lily pads, reeds, and fish with shimmering scales, and they would talk, sipping raspberry lemonade. Everyone in Barrowby knew that the lake and the Littons' estate belonged to Cornelia and Emmeline. They had claimed it through the countless hours they had whiled away by those grassy banks, feeding the fish and dipping their bare toes into the water. The lake was their private land, a secret garden everyone knew of, but that nobody would intrude upon. And so it was that Emmeline and Cornelia spent the summer months together, basking under the sunshine. So now Emmeline says, notice it's Emmeline now instead of Emily. So now this is Emmeline and Cornelia? Yeah, this has got to be Emmeline, because she's the one who had the auburn hair. This has got to be Cornelia. Okay. So, how is your embroidery coming along? Cornelia pouted, giving Emmeline a light shove in the shoulder. That's funny. Oh, please, don't ask me about my embroidery. You know better than anybody how dreadful I am at it. I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. Emmeline giggled, returning Cornelia's shove with one of her own. I do not understand how you can be that terrible at sewing, Nellie. It's hardly a science. It may be simple for you, but it is not for me. Engaging in an activity I have no talent for is incredibly disheartening, and I keep poking myself with a needle. Oh, let me see. What? No! Cornelia's pout deepened, and she held her hands behind her back, attempting to hide them. Why do you want to see my hands anyway? Do you want to gloat? Me gloat? I would never. I just want to see the wounds that have been dealt to you despite your best efforts, my dear Cornelia. So I may applaud you for your bravery. Humph, forgive me for being so cynical, but I suspect you may be making fun of me. Of course I will forgive you. You cannot help your cynicism. Given your father fancies himself as a philosopher, he must run in your family. Indeed he does. Our library is full of Hegel and Kant, though I doubt he understands it. Mother says he just wants to show off at dinner parties. How is he able to show off if he cannot understand the material he speaks of? It is nothing more than bluster. Mother says pretense is one of the key traits a man must possess if he wishes to be successful in this world. My father is an earnest man. He could not lie if his life depended on it, especially not about philosophy. And that is why my mother worries about you, Emmeline. She has said as much before. She need not concern herself with my family. We may not be as rich as you, but what we lack in wealth we make up for with raw talent. Are you saying I have no talent? I am saying it is somewhat sad that a 14-year-old girl such as yourself still cannot sew a single comforter. Hey! Cornelia, who had let her guard slip as she pondered her father's ill-fated attempts to ingratiate himself with the intelligentsia of the age, tried to obscure her hands behind her back once more, but it was already too late. Oh, what are you doing, Emily? What the heck? I'm examining your hands as I said I would. And oh dear. Emmeline tutted and shook her head, her fingers linked together with Cornelia's. They are such beautiful hands with such smooth skin, yet they are marked all over with red dots. It appears as though you have been used as a human pincushion. What? I already told you, Emmy, I have no skills when it comes to sewing. Why must you tease me so? I was not teasing you, I was honoring your efforts. That is a bold-faced lie, and we both know it. If you had an ounce of respect for me, you would not be smiling like that. Like what? Like that, now let go of me. But Emmeline did not. Instead, she continued to stand there, skirts fluttering about her legs, attempting to peer into Cornelia's grumpy little face with undisguised amusement. Emmy, I told you to let me go. Why do you never listen to me? Because seeing you blush is so much fun, of course. Emmy! If Cornelia had to use both her hands, perhaps she would have hit Emmeline upside the head for her insolence. As it was, she did not, and all she could do was glare. Glare and blush. Cornelia blushed a lot. That was one of the downsides of having such fair skin. That, and when she poked herself with a sewing needle, as she was so prone to doing, the red welts that resulted stood out sharply, starkly, against her milky complexion. Why are you acting so coy, Nellie? I know you enjoy my company, really. Be that as it may, you're behaving rather childishly right now, and I have no desire to indulge in your whims. Honestly? Honestly. Even if those whims are your own as well? Well... Cornelia let her head hang, her face turning just a shade darker. This was not the first time the two girls had held hands. They had been friends ever since they were small, and they were not unfamiliar with the sensation of the other's skin. In fact, they were well more versed with one another's bodies than one might have expected. Oh boy. Though their mothers would have scolded them for the unladylike manner with which they comported themselves when left alone by the lakeside, they would have been scandalized to learn of the other, more intimate actions that had taken place between the two girls. Oh wow. It had only been a month or so ago when, drunk on the lazy heat of the encroaching summer, the two girls had slowly, lackadaisically shared their first kiss. Not a kiss on the cheek or the temple, as they had done during their babyhood, but a true kiss typically shared between adults of the opposite sex. Oh heck! Neither of them knew who had instigated the kiss, or why they had lingered for so long in such a manner, their lips pressed together, but both agreed after the fact that they had liked it. Oh boy! And it had just felt right. As such, without giving these moments of intimacy too much thought, the two girls had continued to display their affection for one another in such a manner all through the summer of 1851. 1851 was the year she died, was it not? It may have been uncommon for two women to exchange such kisses and caresses, but what of it? Why should they not kiss one another if they wanted to? The lakeside was their own private haunt, their secret garden, and nothing could intrude upon them there, not even so-called common decency. Yeah, it was definitely a lot different time in 1851 than it is today, that's for sure. And that was another question. Why should it be indecent? Emmeline did not understand. She loved Cornelia, and Cornelia loved her. And was that not enough? Even if it was not enough for the rest of the world, it was more than enough for her. Emmeline, you know, you're really beautiful. Do you honestly think so? Of course, I thought so from the moment I was old enough to understand what beauty is. You are one of the loveliest people I have ever seen. Is that why you like me then? Because you think I'm pretty? Maybe. We humans are fickle beings. Isn't your father proof enough of that? How cruel, Emmy! If you are only kissing me because you think I'm pretty, then perhaps I should reevaluate the nature of our relationship. You are nothing more than a rake. You are even worse than that awful Wedgwood boy. You would compare me to Aubrey Wedgwood? My dear Cornelia, I am wounded. I am nothing at all like that boorish fop. Well, I wonder. He can be awfully insistent too. It is not fitting for a young man. Of course it is not fitting. Did you know he even deigned to take my hand during your mama's garden party last week? Honestly? Indeed, I would have slapped him, Nellie, had his mother not happened upon us. Did she scold him? Lady Wedgwood? Of course not. Emmeline spat on the ground, and did not even have the courtesy to wipe her mouth with a handkerchief afterwards. Dang. Under normal circumstances, Cornelia would have scolded Emmeline, but on this score she relented. Thinking about Aubrey Wedgwood even made her want to spit too. She dotes on that spoilt son of hers. Why, she probably believes him on the second coming of Christ, though he flirts with every single woman in the village, old or young. You see, Nellie, I am nothing like Aubrey. I would rather die than become a rover like him. My feelings for you, my dear Cornelia, are molded from a different cast. You have captured my heart with your ephemeral beauty, and now mine eyes can wander no farther. You are my sweet red rose, newly sprung in June. Ah, well... Cornelia, flustered though she was by Emmeline's teasing, had enough wits about her to recognize that line. Are you quoting poetry at me now, Emmy? Indeed. Did you know that my love is like the melody sweetly played in tune? Don't be an idiot. If you wish to serenade me, you could at least write a poem of your own. But I know you appreciate it, really. In all honesty, I think you're being rather foolish. I cannot help myself, though. I really do love you, Cornelia. I love you so. Sometimes I fear I may go mad. What do you know of madness? I know when you are not by my side, I miss you horribly, and I find myself counting down the minutes, no, the very seconds, until we may be in one another's company once more. Well, I appreciate your feelings, Emmy. I love you too. Aww. If only Emmeline and Cornelia could have continued to spend their time together in so sweet a manner, smiling and laughing, or else bickering pointlessly and making one another pout, yet always parting the words of love and kisses stolen beneath the warm summer sun. Unfortunately, such moments cannot last forever. The splendors of the summer soon faded, and the leaves began to turn brown, and the wind gained a sharp edge that made Emmeline shiver. It was also during the autumn months that Philip Burns returned home for the first time in half a year. This reunion, however, was not quite as happy as the previous ones had been. Philip Burns had always been a small man, yet he seemed even smaller during that bitingly cold September. He stooped more than usual when he entered rooms, if he entered them at all, for he had now developed a habit of lingering, ghost-like, about the thresholds of his own home, as though afraid of stepping outside. It was almost as though, during his 6-month sojourn in London, he had lost something crucial to his constitution, his sense of self, or else his soul. Philip's feet were still planted firmly upon the earth, but he was divorced from the world around him. He drifted about aimlessly, like a somnambulist, yet was restless within his dream world, incapable of sitting still for more than 5 minutes at a time. He looked at things without seeing them, ate food without tasting it, held objects without touching them. Once he tried to pick up his glass during dinner, and used so little force it slipped between his fingers, smashing into pieces against the floor. Even when he spoke to Emmeline, it was without any real feeling, like he was reciting words from a play script, and Philip Burns had never been a very good actor. He was not like Cornelia's father, who had so much huff and puff he could have blown down even the brick home built by the most industrious of the 3 little pigs. Philip Burns was far too honest, and that was the worst thing. It was because he was an honest man that Emmeline knew, though he tried to keep the truth from her. Something was wrong. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. But she did not know what. Cornelia. Are you all right, Emmy? Emmeline blinked, brushing a few strands of hair out of her face, and turned. Why do you ask? Was my face contorted in a curious manner? I suppose you could say that. You have been acting rather more despondent than usual, that is all. A cat-like smile crossed Emmeline's lips. She leant forwards until her nose was only inches apart from her companion's, and said in hushed tones, Are you worried about me, Nellie? I was worried about you, but I shall not worry any longer if you insist upon acting like that." Emmeline only giggled, unmoved by Cornelia's protestations, and rearranged her hair. "Seeing you blush always cheers me up, my dear Cornelia." "So you admit you were feeling unhappy earlier?" "Just a touch. I cannot help myself. Not when Father has been acting in such a peculiar manner. He shambles about the house like an animated corpse, like the misunderstood creature from Mr. Shelley's novel." "Mr. Shelley? I thought the author of Frankenstein was Miss Shelley, not her husband." "I'm unsure of the details, Nellie. Mother says a woman could not have written such a twisted tale, and I do not know what I should believe. In any event, it does not particularly matter." "Probably not, no." Emmeline ran a hand through her auburn curls, or at least she tried to. She soon found that her bonnet got in the way of this gesture, so she untied the ribbon beneath her chin and removed the offending garment. She let her bonnet sit in her lap, as a mother might with a newly born babe, and played with a light green ribbon, twisting it about her wrist on her right arm. The sensation of the soft, smooth material against her skin was comforting, like a caress. "To be quite honest, I've been rather concerned about Father. Just this morning, he missed a stair during his descent into the hallway and sprained his ankle. He could have broken his leg." "But he did not." "No, he did not. He does look rather undignified now, though limping everywhere like an invalid." "Ah, Emmy." Emmeline shifted, still playing with the ribbon on her bonnet. The look on Cornelia's face was too somber for a playful forest sprite such as herself, and it was unsettling. She did not want to think about her father. She had retreated to the Lintons' estate, despite the protestations of Miss Warren. "You have not finished your history lesson, Emmeline. I doubt you could tell Queen Elizabeth apart from a hole in the ground." So she could avoid thinking about her father. This was rather new for Emmeline. She had always loved being with her father. Now, however, she found herself seeking any recourse available to her to avoid him. Seeing him like this, so small and sad, shuffling about his home like a repentant sinner, was too painful. "When you return home, would you give your father my regards? Mother is awfully concerned about him, and you too, Emmeline." "Beatrice Linton would be concerned. She has always loved poking her nose into other people's business." "She is not doing it because she enjoys idle gossip. You should know better than anyone that my mother deplores that kind of behavior. She believes it to be most unpleasant. She cannot help but feel worried, given what she has read in the papers lately. Your family has a great deal invested in the East Anglian railways, do they not?" "Don't talk to me about business, Nellie. I can't understand it at all." "I'm sure you could if you tried. You have just been raised to believe that you should not bother." "Gosh, you sound more and more like your mother every day." Emmeline excelled, tightening the ribbon of her bonnet about her wrist so much it started to hurt. Though the material was soft, intended for wear by young women with silken skin who had never worked a day in their privileged little lives, it chafed when she wound it as such about her wrist. It was strange. Emmeline mused how something as innocent as a ribbon could cause harm when it was used with malicious intent. This world was more dangerous than she had ever truly given it credit for. Even the lake, which she had gazed upon with Cornelia, could be hiding some sinister secrets within its depths. "I apologize, Nellie. I don't mean to snap at you, and I've been rather highly strung as of late. It must be because of the atmosphere at home. Do not fret, Emmy. I understand. You do? Not entirely, but I will try to. I do care about you after all. Hey, thank you, Nellie. The two girls looked at one another, unusually shy, hesitant, their faces slightly flushed. Then, with a touch, Cornelia leant forwards, brushing the tips of her fingertips against Emmeline's wrist. You should not do that. What? Fiddle with your bonnet like that. Because it is unbecoming of a lady? Because you are hurting yourself. Your poor hand has gone white. The blood cannot flow through your body properly if you impede it like that. And your hands, by contrast, still appear to be red, Nellie. Emmeline giggled and began to unwind the ribbon from about her wrist. Are you still yet to master the sacred art of the cross-stitch? Huh. That is neither here nor there. I am trying to comfort you, Emmeline. And you have been doing a wonderful job. Gazing upon my many imperfections always cheers me. You are so cruel, Emmeline. Sometimes I feel like you do not truly love me. You just love toying me. Now, where did you get a silly idea like that? Emmeline smiled, with a touch less sarcasm than before, and leant forwards. Then, moving quickly, as a kittywake might pluck a fish out of the water, she pressed a chaste kiss against the corner of Cornelia's lips. I love you more than ever. Nothing could quell my feelings for you, not a raging storm or a howling wind. Cornelia pressed one hand against her cheek gingerly, the spot where Emmeline had kissed her. It tingled. It felt much like being poked with a sewing needle, a sensation Cornelia was depressingly familiar with. Yet, it was not unpleasant. Your blushes truly are beautiful, Cornelia. They would even outdo the roses in the midst of summer. It makes me wish I could kiss you every single second of the day, if it would always elicit such a lovely response. I do not think my heart would be able to cope with such a constant slew of affection. You would kill me, Emmy. And what better way would there be to die than to be kissed fervently by a girl you love? And with a little giggle, even breezier than that of the coastal air, Emmeline pressed another kiss against the side of Cornelia's mouth. You know, you should always ask for permission before you do that. I am not quite as hungry for affection as you are. So you say, but you did not offer much resistance. That sounds like something Aubrey would say. Oh man. Never. You would not seek to compare me to that cur again, would you, Nellie? I am simply saying what I see. You claim to dislike Aubrey, but you grow more and more like him with every passing day. That is a lie, libel, slander. Take it back. No. Take it back, I said. I refuse. Well, I insist. If you want me to change my mind, you will have to insist harder than that. All right, then. How is this? With a devilish glint in her eyes, which would have been evidence enough only a couple of centuries past to try her as a witch, Emmeline shifted forwards and began her merciless assault. Oh wow. Not even William of Normandy, as he drove back the armies of Harold Godwinson during the Battle of Hastings, could have conceived of such brutality. Whoa! Emmy, stop that! Cornelia kicked and squealed, pushed back against the ground by Emmeline's sudden siege, but it was to no avail. Emmeline had the element of surprise on her side, and she had taken a clear advantage. Cornelia blinked up at Emmeline, squirming like a hooked fish, as Emmeline sat astride her, skirts rucked up her thighs, her fingers trailing lines across Cornelia's prone body, beneath her chin, under her arms, and against her sides. Was there any war tactic more vicious, more wicked, more devious than that of tickling? And this was not just any tickling. Oh no, this was extreme tickling that would surely end in bloodshed. "Emmy, stop! Get off me!" Cornelia implored breathlessly, choking the words from beneath her pursed lips, but the indomitable Emmeline remained unmoved. "No, I will not. Not until you recant what you said." "That you're like Aubrey?" "Indeed, admitted to being nothing more than a lie, and I may spare your life." "No, never. I stand by my word." "And I will stand by my actions and will not stop until you surrender, Nellie. And I warn you, I can be very persuasive when I want to be." Her eyes hardening like the steel of a sword's blade, Emmeline dipped her head and began to press kisses against Cornelia's neck. Cornelia's dress had begun to slip down her shoulders, and there was a good deal of pale skin on show, more than would have been deemed socially acceptable. Uh-oh. Ah, you rogue. That would attack a helpless young girl? Only because this helpless young girl is attempting to defile my honor. So you would seek to defile me? Well, I wonder. Cornelia squealed as though she'd been doused in water, and redoubled her efforts to escape, but it was all in vain. The two girls continued to bicker playfully, giggling, even as the warmth of the sun began to dissipate, and an autumn chill set into the air. At that moment, as the day drew to a close, the two girls may truly have believed, with their rumpled clothes and disordered hair and flustered cheeks, that this could last forever. Emmeline was dreaming, though she was not sure what it was exactly she was dreaming of. Her dreams were mostly comprised of vague shapes and distorted sounds, as though she were viewing her own fantasy lands from behind a frozen glass or through a fine film of water. Sometimes, however, she dreamt of Cornelia. She always knew when she had dreamt of Cornelia, because when she awoke, it was with a silly smile on her face and a small flush on her cheeks. That was how she'd realized she was in love. She was always thinking of Cornelia, even during the rare occasions when Cornelia was not beside her. Though Emmeline was only 14, and she did not fully understand what love was, she did not need to. Why trouble herself over the intricacies of the four-letter word when she could instead be doing things that made her happy? Those things being chiefly talking to Cornelia, braiding her hair, making her blush, and kissing her lips, her cheeks, her eyelids. Emmeline was not particularly picky. On this particular night, however, Emmeline did not awake to find sunlight streaming in through her window, half-formed remembrances of her love fitting through her mind. She did not awake during the morning at all. It must have been at night, because it was pitch black in her bedroom, and she could not hear any birds. It was earlier than 5 then, she assumed, for she had no way of knowing if this was correct or not. It was so dark in her room she could not see that clock that hung on her wall, even though she could hear its ticking. The first point she was aware of, other than the oppressive darkness, was that it was cold. The chill of winter was well and truly setting in, especially during the night, and she could no longer sleep with bare arms in a light coverlet, as she had done before. Her summer sleepwear had been packed away at the back of her wardrobe, and the maids now had set her winter nightgowns on her bed before she went to sleep, complete with puffled sleeves and high collars. The second thing Emmeline noticed, as her eyes slowly grew accustomed to the dark, was that she was not alone. There was somebody else in the room with her. It was none other than her father, Philip. Emmeline stared at her father with wide eyes. He looked back at her, and Emmeline could tell, despite the dark, that he was just as surprised, if not more, than she was. Had his face always looked so lined, his mouth so drawn? Perhaps the shadows were playing tricks with her eyes, but he looked far older than his 44 years. Emmeline swallowed. All of a sudden, her throat felt dry. "Father, is something wrong?" No, nothing's wrong, Emmy. Nothing at all." But he did not look at her face, and he stuttered when he spoke. Why did he sound so frightened? Had something bad happened? Emmeline could not think of any other reason why he would be in a room at such an hour, looking so very tired. No, tired did not even begin to describe it. He looked haggard, as though on the brink of death, and his hands would not stop shaking, even when he clenched them into fists. Wow. Emmeline sat up in bed, the covers falling about her body like a funeral shroud, and looked at her father with concern. "It isn't Mother, is it? Is she sick?" "Your mother? She's fine, Emmy. She should be sleeping now." "Oh." A pause. And why are you not asleep, Father? Could you not?" "No, there is something I have to do." "At this hour?" "Yes, it is of utmost importance. I don't imagine you would understand." Emmeline flinched. Her father's voice was so strangely hard, despite the nervous stammer, and she was not used to him talking to her in such a way. Maybe other girls' fathers spoke in such terse, clipped terms. Cornelia's father sometimes did, when Beatrice wasn't there to chastise him. But not her father, not Philip Burns. There was no warmth to his voice, no tenderness. It was as though he were speaking to a stranger, rather than his dear daughter, his priceless jewel, his lovely little Emmeline. "I may not understand what it is you wish to do, Father, but are you sure I cannot help?" "No, nobody can." "But..." "I appreciate the offer, Emmy, but it is far too late." Her father swallowed. Emmeline could hear it. It sounded painful, as though he were attempting to choke down a lead bullet or a piece of steel shrapnel. "I do not understand. If you do not believe I can help you, why did you come to my room? What is it you wish to discuss with me, Father?" Oh God. Philip's shoulders shook. It sounded like he was trying to stem a flow of oncoming tears, though he was not entirely successful. He bit down on his lower lip, but moisture still sparkled in the corners of his eyes, threatening to spill down his cheeks like the autumn rain. If Grandmother Patience were here, she would have mocked him. She always had done when Philip was a child. Perhaps that was why Philip never visited Grandma Patience. She made him feel like a young boy again, a small, stupid, and utterly insignificant boy. That was why Philip had gone into banking, though he was not suited for such a cutthroat industry. He didn't have the knack for it, never had done. Grandmother Patience had said as much, but he was determined to prove her wrong. He wanted, for once in his life, to make her proud. And look what it had cost him. His wealth, his reputation, and now, worst of all, his family too. But there was no going back now.
Father, are you alright? What's wrong?
Emmeline, oh my dear Emmy, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I tried to be a good father, Emmy. I really did try. I wanted to be kind. I wanted to be fair. I had no intention of treating you like my parents treated me, but I was incapable of doing it. In the end, it all went wrong. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I was succeeding, and for a while maybe I was. Now I realize that was a foolish fantasy, dreamt by a foolish man. My mother was right. I should have been drowned when I was younger. I would have saved you all so much trouble. It would have made everything so much easier.
Father!
Emmeline got to her feet, her bare toes curling against the wooden floorboards, and took a few steps forward.
Are you not feeling well? We can call for the physician if you would like. If only you would sit down. Look how much you're trembling.
No. Philip shook his head mechanically, back and forth like a tin soldier, his words spoken in an almost frenzied fervor. The physician cannot help now. Nothing can help. We're done for, Emmeline. You and I, and your mother too. This is it. This is the end.
What?
Emmeline says the same thing, huh?
The end of what exactly?
Our money is gone, Emmeline. I made a terrible mistake, and now everything is gone. The bubble burst, and we lost it all. Every single thing. Emmeline stared at her father, her mouth open. She did not know what to do, or what to say. What could she say? She was only 14 years old, and she had always been told by her mother that women had no place in the world of business. It was only natural when they could not understand facts and figures, or tables and numbers. Beatrice Linton was the exception, rather than the rule. Beatrice Linton could do anything. She could have probably wrestled a bear to death with her own bare hands if need be, but Emmeline could not. She was only a young girl, standing in her bedroom, in her winter nightgown, shivering like a leaf, and she did not know what to do. But she did not need to ponder in her own powerlessness much longer. Oh, I'm sorry, Emmy. I'm so sorry. I let you down. I let you down, and now this is the only thing I can do to make amends. Oh no. Oh no.
Father, what are you?
But Emmeline was not able to finish her question. That is because at that moment, Philip Burns closed the distance between them and held his hand around his daughter's throat. Oh, wow. Oh my God. Damn. His fingers dug into her skin, and Emmeline could not breathe. Could you imagine going out that way to a father you adore? Oh my gosh. Wow. First, it was the shock that drew the air out of her lungs, but then it was the pressure about her throat, choking her. She could hardly believe it. How could her father, who had never raised a hand to her in his life, who had never raised so much as his voice, even contemplate carrying out such a hideous action? But he was. He really was going to kill her. Emmeline felt herself growing faint. She wondered idly if dark purple bruises would be left around her throat when Philip let go. a fairy circle made of mushrooms. Her head swam, her legs gave way beneath her, and she fell backwards onto her bed. Still, Philip's fingers did not budge. They remained upon her throat, fixated with the gruesome task they had been charged with. It was almost as though Philip Burns had split in two. One half remained focused on the murder of his dear daughter, his beloved Emmy, while the other, appalled at his actions, looked away with disgust. So he's not even looking at her. He's like choking the crap out of his daughter and looking away because he doesn't even want to see what he's doing to her pretty face. Damn, this is bad. Maybe he should have poisoned her nightly mug of hot cocoa instead. Then he wouldn't have had to bear witness to the look on her face as the life was slowly choked out of her teeny body. "I'm sorry, Emmy. I'm so sorry." And he was, too. His cheeks were wet with tears, and more tears kept falling. Some of them splashed against Emmeline's cheeks, but this offering of remorse made little difference. Emmeline was still dying. She had been dying for around 2 minutes now, though it felt like it had been far longer, and her heart was already starting to stammer inside of her chest. "I am doing it for you, Emmy. It's for the greater good, I promise. I cannot stand the thought of my little girl going to the workhouse. I just couldn't. But Philip did not know what else to say. He doubted it would have made much of a difference. No, I doubt anything you say at that moment with your hands around her neck for 2 minutes is going to matter a lot. Damn, that's cold. Emmeline stared up at the ceiling blankly, her eyes a vast sea of white, her mouth hanging open. Her arms and legs were limp, and though her body was warm, it did not move. It could not. Philip removed his hands from Emmeline's throat, but Emmeline did not stir. Her eyes remained open, unfixed, misty with death. "Emmy, oh my poor Emmy, my little Emmy." With a choked sob, Philip pulled his dear little girl, who was now a very dead little girl, into his arms and wept. Damn. That's freaking sad. So now we go back to Emily here, the girl from, today's time, talking to Toma. Anyway, after that, Philip Burns killed himself. He set the house ablaze, then slit his throat with a knife. Torching the house may seem like something of a waste, but if he had not, he would have not been buried with his wife and child. He had to make it look like an accident. Of course, Emmeline was not there to witness that, but she found out within due course. And that is the end of the sad story of Emmeline Burns. Toma. I open and close my mouth, but no sound comes out. I don't know what to say. I had already suspected it, vague speculations about her being an internet celebrity aside, but I have no doubts left in my mind after hearing Emily's story. Damn. Look at that art. Look at that face. That's pretty cool. I like the art here. This girl is no Emily. I knew she was no Emily from the moment she introduced herself. Emmeline holds one hand to her throat, rubbing it gently, as though nursing a cold. Damn. I wish he had not choked me. I wish he did it because he thought it would be less violent than stabbing me. But it took so long to die. 3 whole minutes. Worst of all, I could still think during that time. I could grieve.
and I could suffer. It gave me enough time to form regrets, and maybe that is why I could not die properly.
Emmeline sighs, resting a hand against the top of her own gravestone. Unlike the ghosts in films, her hand doesn't pass through it. Instead, her fingers make contact, firm and solid, and I even see her shiver when the coldness of the stone permeates her pale skin.
Maybe Grandmother Patience was right. Father does not have the willpower required to see things through until the end. Not even murder. I suppose I should congratulate him for trying, though. He really did try. It hurt horribly.
I open my mouth once more, but I don't know what to say. How can I reply to that? What must it have felt like, being betrayed so deeply by your own dad? I don't know, because I have none of my own. Of course, this isn't true in the strictest sense of the word. I am not a product of divine conception, and a human man did have a hand in my existence. I don't feel like I have a dad, though. Mom never talks about him, and I never thought to ask. I know Mom doesn't like thinking about Saul Andrews, or that Jit, as she calls him when she is in a charitable mood. She calls him far worse when she is not. And I don't like thinking about him either. I don't have much to think about anyway. I've never met him before. I've only seen his face in photographs, and Mom threw most of those away. I can't say I blame her, given how he reacted to the news of her pregnancy. Apparently, he tried to coerce her into having an abortion, and when that didn't work, he turned tail and fled. Didn't even leave a note. What a jit. I always thought I should hate Saul, but I don't even know him well enough for that. Instead, all I feel is an absence of feeling, really, apathy. Now, I can't help but wonder who has it worse, even though I know making such comparison is unfair. Is it Emmeline, whose dad loved her dearly, to such an extent it wrung the life right out of her lungs? Or is it me, whose dad loved me so little? Or is it me, whose dad loved me so little that he ran away before I was born and never tried to talk to me? Ah, they're both bad in their own ways, and if my mom had bowed to Saul Andrews' wishes, I would be dead too. That's a good point. The fact remains, however, that I am not. Emmeline, meanwhile, is. Do you resent him?
I do not know. I've had a lot of time to think about it, but I still can't come to a conclusion. Trying to describe it with words would seem inadequate somehow, but I'm upset. I wish it had never happened. I know Father thought he had to do it, and I'm sure it took him a good deal of thought before he was able to consider killing me and my mother. He was not a violent person. I know it might sound cliché, but he did not even like killing moths or spiders, and yet a person like him, spineless, Grandmother Patience said, was still able to murder his wife and child, and then slit his own throat. Our financial situation must have been bad if he thought it was the only way he could save us. I don't profess to fully understand it myself, but there must have been a reason behind his actions. Men, not even the most hot-headed men, do not murder their wives and daughters on some sudden whims or whispers from fairies. He must have been in a difficult position, so I feel some sympathy, but at the same time, it just isn't fair. He never even asked me what I wanted, and I certainly did not want to die. I wanted to stay alive. There were so many more things I wanted to do. I don't know what things I wanted to do, not exactly, but I had my whole life ahead of me, and I thought I could think about it later. I thought I would have enough time. But I was naive. I just wanted to spend more time with Cornelia, even though I was young, and I did not understand a great deal about the world around me. I know that I loved her. I loved her with all of my heart. And then my father killed me, and that was the end of that. At least it should have been. I should have stopped loving her the moment my heart stopped beating, but things are not always so simple. And do you know what happened to Cornelia? Bits and pieces. She was upset after I died, I think. She cried a lot. Then she grew older and was able to put what had happened behind her. She'll be dead now. She must have been dead for years and years.
Emmeline smiles bitterly.
Almost as long as I have.
You didn't try to talk to her?
I did, but she could not see me. I tried my hardest, but it all felt so pointless. I could see her face, but I could not dry her tears. I wanted to tell her I was all right as a dead girl can be anyway, but there was nothing I could do. In the end, I decided to leave her alone. She had moved on, and I knew I should too. Following Cornelia did not make her happy, and it definitely did not make me happy. It just made me feel even more alone. I have not left this graveyard in almost a century. There has been no reason to leave. I just stayed here and slept. A century might seem like a long time, but it slipped by rather quickly. Nobody could see me, so nobody bothered me. At least, until today. You're the first person I've met during the last 150 years who can see me. It is most peculiar.
Well, I am quite a peculiar person. I have always liked graveyards.
Ah, yes, you told me that earlier. I remembered.
You don't think I'm weird, do you?
Perhaps a little, but I'm rather happy about it. If you were not weird, as you said, you would not be able to see me, and I would still be alone.
This might not be because of me, though.
What do you mean? You can see me with your own two eyes, correct? You have not stolen anybody else's, have you?
No, of course not. It's just I owe my life to the people who came before me. Maybe these eyes are a gift from Rose Bradford.
Rose?
She's one of my ancestors. Apparently, she was a medium. That's what Mother says anyway. Yet, if these eyes are a gift from Rose Bradford, the self-proclaimed White Witch of Beverly, they haven't been much of use until now. I've never seen a ghost before, even though I've been to countless graveyards in my time. I have, however, always been strangely adept in the art of finding dead bodies, even when they're buried deep beneath the earth. Does this mean something? Anything? Nothing at all. Maybe the whole world is crawling with ghosts, thicker than the fog that creeps across the ground, and they just never wanted to make my humble acquaintance. Perhaps they were hiding from me, sitting in the branches of trees or peeking out from behind the stained glass church windows, whispering to themselves. Why would they approach me for help anyway? I'm only a young girl, only 14. But Emmeline did. Was there a reason for that? Now that I think about it, the her you said I resembled.
Oh yes, well, you really do look like Cornelia. It took me by surprise. For a few moments I thought you really might be her. But that was wrong, of course. You are not Cornelia, you're your own person, Verity. No, my name isn't Verity, we both know that, and I don't know if I'm my own person either. How could I be given my name, Toma, a diminutive form of Thomas picked because my real name was stolen 2 weeks before I was born? Andrews, a last name given to me by my dad, not as a gift, but as an afterthought, like a balled-up pair of socks for Christmas. My name was defined by men I've never met before. A dead grandfather, an absent father. It doesn't belong to me. Nothing belongs to me. At the moment, I'm nothing more than a composite of old names and long-lost ancestors, Bradfords and Bowers and Kendalls and Lintons and... Wait a minute. Linton? Emmeline, can I ask you something? Of course. Nothing would make me happier. I haven't had much of a chance to talk to others for over the last century. I swallow. My lips feel cracked and dry. My fingertips twitch. Cornelia's last name, what was it? Why, it was Linton. It has been such a long time since I last saw her, but I would never forget that. Linton, was it? Cornelia Linton. It could be a coincidence, of course, but I don't know if I believe in coincidences. Not after everything that's happened today. That was the reason why Emmeline approached me. She thought I was Cornelia. Maybe in a sense I am. Or at least a small part of me is. Whoa. Wild. And it is with a sudden realization that I feel a light dawn upon me. It's not a real light. The sun remains firmly, stubbornly behind the clouds. But it is a light nonetheless. It is a sudden understanding. Wow, look at that. There she is. A whole wealth of memories. A treasure chest of moments shared by the Linton's Lake, of girlish laughter and raspberry lemonade and kisses that taste of carbonation, that I should have no knowledge of. Oh damn, she remembers everything, huh? She remembers all the fond moments they shared together, frolicking by the water. These scenes should be sepia-tainted, like old photographs found in the back of a charity store, from years gone well and truly by. I've never been kissed before. How would I know what that feels like? But I can imagine it. In fact, I don't need to imagine it, because it really did happen. Not to the current me, but to one of my relatives in another time, in a place not so very far away. Emmeline says, Cornelia? Emmeline stares at me, or is it me, with wide eyes, hardly daring to believe. I can't entirely believe it either. My body is still mine, but it's not at the same time. Her heartbeat's going louder. I can sense another presence residing inside of me, blown in by the cold autumn breeze. It lingers, hazy and ephemeral, shy to make itself known, but desperate to speak. I feel my heart pounding, but the sensation is strangely unfamiliar. My fingers tremble. Or are they hers? I open my mouth to speak,
but another person's voice comes out.
Emmy! Emmy! It is really you! Cornelia, I...
Emmeline presses a hand against her mouth, trying to stifle a gasp of disbelief. But isn't that unnecessary? How can a ghost breathe? The air was choked out of her lungs a long, long time ago. But now, more than 100 years after the death, Emmeline has a whole new reason to be breathless.
I thought you had already passed on. Even after you died, I was never able to find you. At any rate, your body wasn't even buried here.
That's right. I was buried where I died, in Wiltshire. I was 73.
And you died peacefully?
Yes, I am not a ghost. I had no regrets, so I had no reason to come back.
And yet right now, you...
Well, this was rather unexpected, to tell you the truth. I had been resting peacefully, minding my own business, when all of a sudden I found myself here inside this body. It must have been years since I looked so young. I must apologize to the young girl whose body I've stolen. It is awfully rude, and it wasn't intentional.
Don't worry about it, Cornelia. I'm sure Verity won't mind.
Wow, this is, I wasn't expecting the story to go this way.
Verity? That's strange. I didn't think that was her name.
At any rate, I must thank Miss Verity for her kindness. Sharing one's identity with somebody else is quite a gesture. Identity thief. Remember how at the very start it said, my identity's been stolen. That's what she said at the very start. My identity's been stolen. Now we see what that means. Wow, a little bit different than I was thinking. Anyway, Cornelia says, at any rate, I must thank Miss Verity for her kindness. Sharing one's identity with somebody else is quite a gesture. It might be to other people, but it isn't to me. I already know what it feels like to share my identity with somebody else. I've been living my whole life in Amelia Miller's shadow. Compared to that, a little light possession is nothing. So Cornelia says, "This outfit is hardly appropriate, though." Cornelia flushes, tugging at the hem on my school skirt. There is rather too much leg on display. And what about the wind? I am surprised the girls of today don't catch their deaths of cold.
You sound like a crotchety old lady, Cornelia.
I am an old lady, and you are too. Stop trying to act cute. Emmeline giggles, peering up at Cornelia with that familiar, mischievous grin. It's the same grin she wore 150 years hence, during the lazy days by the lake, when she would press kisses against Cornelia's lips and recite snatches of misremembered poetry to her.
But you still blush like a fair maiden, Cornelia. You didn't change at all.
And neither did you, Emmy, though I hoped that you might. That attitude of yours was always so unseemly. Mother agreed.
Beatrice Leeton wouldn't know what fun was if it smacked her across the face.
My mother was a very commendable person. She might have been a little strict, but she was not without her good points. She was awfully upset when she heard what happened to you, Emmy.
Yes, what happened? Poor little Emmy. And you, Cornelia? Did you miss me too?
Do you really need to ask that question?
I just want to make sure. I know that you cried a good deal, and that upset me, but I don't know. I wanted you to move on and be happy. I truly, truly did, but at the same time I was also scared, and jealous too. You really were my first love, and I suppose that you were my last love too, and all the loves that could have come in between. I just don't want to be replaced. You were my one and only, and I want to be the same for you. I know you lived a lot longer than I did, and I know that I'm being selfish, but when I think about you loving somebody other than me, it hurts. It hurts so much. I can hardly stand it. Emmy. Emmeline's shoulders shake, and though her eyes are devoid of tears, maybe crying is a luxury not afforded to ghosts. I'm sure she would be weeping if she could. She looks fragile, like a single push might shatter every single bone in her body. Is that why she avoided Cornelia, though she desperately wanted to see how she was? Was it because she was afraid? But she can't run away now, not anymore. Cornelia takes a few steps forwards, slow and stumbling in her unfamiliar body. When she reaches Emmeline, she links their hands and squeezes gently. Emmeline giggles, wiping stray tears that never had a chance to fall from the corners of her eyes. Well, this is certainly new. You would never have been so bold in the past, Nellie. Perhaps not, but I've grown up. I lived a long time. 73 years, was it? A nod. 73 years, it's an awfully long time to remain obsessed with a skinny young girl who snuck kisses from you in the summer, is it not? Indeed, it was an awfully long time, and yet, despite that, I was never able to forget you. It would be impossible, even if I wanted to. Cornelia? Cornelia bows her head, perhaps in an attempt to hide her threatening blush, but it does no good. She always used to blush around Emmeline, and that hasn't changed. Wow, even 150 years later, huh? I got married when I was 18. It was a match my mother arranged. She was always so officious, so organized, so practical. I wonder why your father did not ask her for advice during the stock market crash. She could have helped. I think he would have been too embarrassed. It was all Grandmother Patient's fault. She was not a particularly nice woman by all accounts. That is really sad. It could have been avoided so easily. That is what I think too. Such thoughts do not do us much good now, though. No, I suppose they do not. So, what about your view? Emmeline attempts to smile, though it looks forced, slightly strained at the edges. Was he a good looker, Cornelia? Did he sweep you off your feet, just like a prince in a fairy tale? Of course not. He was a match my mother chose for me. Do you think she would pair her dear daughter with a feckless sot? So, he was sensible, was he? Very sensible. He was twice my age, and he was already starting to lose his hair, but he was rich, and he had land, and he could afford to look after me. To my mother, that was the most important thing. And not your happiness? According to my mother, money is the root of all happiness. I would like to disagree, but Emmeline looks down at herself, smiling sadly. Given money can be blamed for the sorry state of affairs my family found themselves in, perhaps there is a germ of truth to that. Perhaps. And I was happy with him, in a sense. He loved him? No, I did not love him. He was too old, and we were too dissimilar. We did not have a single thing in common. Fortunately, he was not unkind, and that is more than can be said of some men, I suppose. Oh, I'm sorry, Cornelia. You did not need to be sorry. I may not have been happy, but I was not unhappy. My life was rather comfortable, all things considered. But you did not forget about me? No, I did not. I could not. You really did mean the world to me back then, Emmy, and I loved you with all of my heart. Only back then? Well, even now, I still care for you. I never stopped caring. I just had to stop remembering. Oh, Cornelia, if my heart had not stopped, I'm sure it would have skipped a beat. And my own heart is pounding rather uncomfortably, though it does not truly belong to me. I hope I'm not causing this young girl any undue strain. You always did worry too much, Nellie. You used to be scared that your mother would find out about us. You still let me kiss you, though. Yes, I was scared, but I'm glad for the time we spent together. Had I known it would be cut short, I would have confessed to you sooner. Hey, Cornelia? Yes, what is it? I am afraid to ask, but curiosity compels me to do so. Look at this. Look what she's asking her. Was I a better kisser than your husband? Oh, boy. Oh, wow. Well, It's fine if you cannot answer. It was quite some time since we last kissed one another. Perhaps you need to refresh your memory. I do not think I would be entirely adverse to that. Well then, shall we? My heart pounds. Or is it Cornelia's? Perhaps it belongs to both of us. Though she has been dead for some 150 years, Emmeline's lips are soft and warm, sweet and gentle, filled with a deep sense of yearning. I wonder how long Emmeline has wanted to kiss Cornelia, how long she has been sleeping in this graveyard, dreaming unfulfilled dreams of a time gone by, when she was young and happy and very much alive. Maybe she thought her dream would never come true. That was why she consigned herself to dreaming and did not awake from her sleepy stupor, a ghostly girl isolated from the rest of the world. But now she has finally managed to make her dream come true. Is there any reason for her to haunt this graveyard further? Surely all of her regrets have been wiped away, like the spring sunshine melting away the winter snow. She may never understand her dad's motivations for committing such a terrible crime, but I doubt that was the real regret that kept her body tied to this earth. Instead, it was Cornelia. For Emmeline, it was always Cornelia. Emmy, you will come back with me this time, won't you? I have been lonely without you. What? I thought you would have been enjoying the peace and quiet. You always did say I was a nuisance. You may have bothered me, but I did not mind the attention. Though I enjoy the calm, it can be rather dull at times. Then I must go with you without delay. I would never want you to feel like you had been abandoned. That would be far too sad. Yes, I will be waiting. I have encroached upon this girl's body for far too long, and I should give it back. It would be the proper thing to do. You always did care for the proper thing, Nellie. Huh. Evidently not enough. When it comes to you, Mother will be so surprised when she learns. I look forward to seeing the expression on her face. I don't think I've ever seen Beatrice Linton surprised by anything before in her life. Yes, well, let us see how it goes, shall we? I would like that more than anything in the world.
Cornelia smiles, taking Emmeline's hand in her own, and squeezes.
I will see you on the other side, Emmy. Please do not tarry. It has already been far too long.
Ah, so now Tommy gets it back. Ah. And with that, I feel myself gradually regaining control of my body. My fingertips twitch, my eyelids blink, and I inhale the cool autumnal air almost greedily, like a drowning maiden resurfacing from an inky black water. My body belongs to me again, and only me. My identity, what subsumed along Cornelia's ego, like a moon orbiting the earth, has finally been restored. I never realized it until now, but I really do have an identity of my own. I might be quiet, and I might be shy, and my classmates might call me weird, but that doesn't invalidate me as a person. Neither does the fact that Amelia Miller took my name, nor the fact that my dad left me when I was still an embryo in my mom's womb. None of that matters. It's all irrelevant. It doesn't change the fact that I exist, and I am alive. I am the product of all my ancestors before me, a whole string of successive relatives with their own stories to tell, and I have a story of my own. How could I throw my identity away? It may not fit me perfectly, but it's the only one I have. If I don't like it, all I need to do is create another. I have that power. Why did I never realize it before? Until it was wrestled away from me by a restless memory of a girl long since dead. That old saying must be true. You never realize what you have until you lose it. That's true. Emmeline says, Verity, thank you for helping me. You have no idea how much this means to me. I really am glad that I met you, though I was never able to learn your name. My name, is it? A name that belongs to me? I straighten my back, inhale a lungful of air, and declare, My name is Toma Andrews, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Emmeline. How cool is that? Toma, what a cute name. Cute? The only other person that says that is Hattie. Everyone else thinks it's weird. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Nellie will get jealous. I think it's perfectly charming, though. Why did you not wish to share it with me? I'm not entirely sure. I was embarrassed. Embarrassed by your name? That's right. But I think I just realized something. I don't want to be embarrassed anymore. Well, maybe I was able to teach you something too. That was another one of my dreams. Your dreams? Yes, I did so love English literature, and I would have enjoyed being a tutor. That might have been somewhat difficult, given the period I lived in, but it seems times are starting to change. Emmeline looks down at my school skirt, and I feel myself flushing. Why is my skirt such a point of public interest? It isn't that short, is it? If Emmeline and Cornelia are scandalized by my skirt, they should see Emily Hargrave's. That would knock them unconscious. Huh.
I hope you have a pleasant life, dear Toma. When the time comes, you will have to tell me all about it. Don't worry, I will. I'll go on all kinds of adventures. I'll get some stories, real stories, to share with you. I can't wait. It seems like the next century is going to be very interesting indeed.
And with that, a cheerful giggle, Emmeline's body begins to disappear from this world. I watch as she fades away until she becomes nothing more than a memory. I pinch my arm. It hurts. I guess this wasn't a dream after all. I really did meet a ghost named Emmeline Burns, and I really did meet my long-lost ancestor, Cornelia Linton. My mom would be so jealous. A silly smile rises to my lips despite myself, and I can't help but giggle. I don't know if my body has ever felt this light. I need to keep going forwards no matter what happens. I should try to be more like Emmeline, who didn't give up on her dreams even after she died. I could use some willpower like that. It's probably because of that strength of will that Cornelia fell in love with her. Who wouldn't? Despite her sad story, Emmeline Burns really is beautiful. I hope that I, Toma Andrews, a recovering victim of identity theft, can someday be as beautiful as her. Wow. That was one cool-ass story, even though it was definitely different. Definitely a different story. For a free game, I mean, I'm honored to have had the experience of this kind of a game. Now, a lot of people, I know a lot of guys and men and stuff like that probably have long since clicked off this video. I don't know. Or maybe guys will watch the whole thing, and I kind of had the same kind of curiosity that I had as I was reading the story. But I really thought this was, it was a story. I expected it to have more choices, kind of like, a virtual novel or whatever. I expected there to be choices to make, but obviously it's just it's just like reading a book or whatever. It's a virtual novel with no choices to make whatsoever. But I really liked the direction it went, and the points that it was trying to make about really never give up on love is kind of what I got out of it. But also, always be proud of who you are. Never look with a jealousy at anybody else. Take who you are, the gifts you were given yourself, your name, your talents, the way you think, whatever it is. Take the person, the gift that you were born with, and make the best of it in your life. Never give up on love is another huge point. Even Emmeline there in the story, even though her father choked her to death at 14 years old and completely, could you imagine not only being forcefully physically choked like that, but that would shatter her heart to have her own father, who she trusted and loved, do that to her. So, but even after dying, she never gave up on the love of her life while she was in her corpse. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but there's a lot more truth to that, symbolism-wise, than you might think. Love can be one of the most powerful emotions and feelings that we as humans can feel for another. And, it's proven every day. Look at how sad people are when somebody they truly love passes. When a relationship doesn't work out, people are shattered. People are shattered to the most extreme lows when they're in a relationship and it doesn't work out the way they wanted for whatever reason. Love is one of the most powerful feelings and emotions and everything that we as humans can have for one another. So this story takes that and puts it in a whole different, whole different angle to look at. And I really like the way it did that. It looks like we got a little bit more here to read, so let's go ahead and see what's up here. Toma says, "It's really coming down fast." The sky up ahead is a stilly slate gray, completely overcast with clouds. The rain falls down in an endless stream, beating mercilessly against the ground. And there's Hattie. Okay, we get to see Hattie now. Hattie says, "This is just great. The curls are going to fall out of my hair. At least we're able to get our shopping done before it started." "I suppose so. It's so dreary, though." Hattie frowns, fiddling one of her curls with the tip of her index finger. She must have spent a long time on those curls this morning. Hattie's something of a perfectionist, so she spends a long time on everything. Her handwriting is incredibly neat, an elegantly flowing script that wouldn't look out of place in an 18th century manuscript, but it takes her a small eternity to do all of her schoolwork. Sadly, the dampness in the atmosphere has taken a toll on her curls, and they no longer look as curly as they did a few hours ago. Hattie's hair has been deflating slowly throughout the day, but the sudden downpour must have been the last straw. "It's all right, Hattie. I pause, shifting. The plastic bench is cold beneath the exposed backs of my thighs, and it bites through the thin fabric of my socks, and I shiver. Maybe I should have worn something more season appropriate, but I didn't think it was going to rain this much. I didn't even bring an umbrella. I know it was foggy this morning, but it's been foggy every single morning the last 2 weeks, and it didn't rain then. I guess I was just unlucky." Toma says, "I still think it looks nice." "You do?" "That's right. You're very pretty, you know." Hattie blinks. She looks a little perplexed, but only for a few moments. "Oh, where's all this coming from? Do you feel guilty about the money?" "Oh, no, it isn't that, really." "Well, I wonder." "You don't need to feel indebted. I have told you enough times. It's only £5. You can pay me back whenever. Or you keep quiet about it until I forget, whatever works for you." I'd never do that. That's wrong. I'll pay you back, no matter what. Even if I have to sell off one of my kidneys." "You'd go that far?" "If I could find anybody willing to make an offer." You're so devoted, like a puppy. That's why I don't mind lending you money. I trust you." "Thank you." "No, thank you." "I didn't do anything to be thanked for, though." "My mother always says honesty is the best policy." "It should be the only policy." "I wish everybody was as pure as you, Toma." Hattie's always been lending me money. Her parents are a good deal richer than mine, and I think she feels so guilty about it. I appreciate it, but I wasn't talking about the money earlier. I wanted to pay her a genuine compliment, because it's how I genuinely feel. I find it hard to express myself sometimes, though. I've been friends with Hattie since we were both in primary school, but I'm still bad at expressing myself around her. Maybe that's because this last year or so I've begun to regard her as something more than just a friend. I wonder if it was inevitable. I mean, she's the only real friend I have. We always sit together at lunch, and we group together in PE. We have had sleepovers at each other's houses. Since I see so much of her, it might be natural that I started to like her like that. There isn't anybody else for me to get attached to. I'm too shy to talk to other people, so I don't have many choices. I know some of the girls in my class have crushes on celebrities, actors, and singers, and sports stars, but I don't really understand that. How can you like somebody you've never even met? You don't know anything about them. Good point. Hattie's the only person my age I feel particularly close to. There must be more to my feelings than that, though. Hattie's pretty, and she's kind, and she makes me laugh. She likes romance stories, and she's read Jane Eyre about 4 times, and she loves kitschy places like the old-fashioned photography parlors where you get to wear ruffled dresses and act like Victorian ladies. She doesn't think it's weird that I like to spend time in graveyards. Maybe that's because her interests are similarly old-fashioned, in a slightly different way. When Hattie learned I cut school last Friday because I was loitering in the cemetery, she just nodded her head and said, "That sounds like you, Tama." Hattie understands me. At least I think she does. I hope I can understand her just a little bit. I wonder if that's what love is. Understanding somebody else. That might be why I found it so hard to love myself. I had no idea who I was, only vague hopes about who I wanted to be. But that's in the past now. At least I hope it is. Hattie says, "You know, you've been acting a little off lately, Toma." "Off?" Hattie nods. "Like, not in a bad way, I just mean a little different, that's all." "Do you really think so?" "Yeah, I mean, you actually skipped school, for one thing. I never would have expected it of a model student like you." "My mother didn't expect it either. She was kind of mad about it. I don't really know why I did it. I just felt compelled." "Like you heard some divine voice telling you to ditch school?" "No, not like that. It's more, I had a feeling. Not that I'm a psychic or anything. Or am I? Could I have mystical powers of some sort? Given I was able to see and speak to a real ghost? I'm not sure. I feel like you've become a bit bolder, too." "Bold? There's no way. I still get anxious when I have to order food at McDonald's. My hands start to shake, and my voice gets all croaky." "Do you think the cashier cared that much that you wanted an apple pie?" That's funny. "I don't think he cared about me at all, but it didn't make any difference. It's not logical. People rarely are shy people, doubly so. I know this only too well, having been shy all my life." "You still manage to order it for yourself, though. You usually ask me." "Well, I thought I shouldn't rely on you all the time. I mean, you did lend me the money to buy those boots." "I gave you a favor. It hardly broke the bank. And that's another thing. You wanted those boots for months, but you never bought them. Why the sudden change of heart?" "I don't know. I thought if I wanted to do something, I should do it. Life's too short to waste it, wanting to do things, but being too worried. You never know when it might end, just like Emmeline's did, so unexpectedly." That's a good point. I think that's something I learned after meeting her. I was living my life like a shadow, always hiding myself away in corners, trying to draw as little attention to myself as possible. That's not how I want to live, though. It's not how Emmeline lived, even though she existed in a period where women were expected to shut up and behave. I need to try to be stronger, rather than wishing I was somebody else, and being too shy and scared and resigned to even try to change. I want to make an effort. I try to recall Emmeline now, her soft curls, her softer lips, and the purple bruises that stood out, starkly against her pale skin, But these attributes feel like little more than a list. They're not real to me anymore, as they once were, because I can't see them. I might never see them again. Not now she's passed on to the other side, whatever that might be. You would think seeing a ghost, then being possessed by her departed lover, would leave more of a lasting impression, but I guess not. Life continues to go on. Even Emmeline and Cornelia, whose lives have ended, moved on. I need to keep on going too. I haven't told anybody about what I saw. Who would believe me? They'd all think I was delusional. I'm half tempted to believe what I saw might be a delusion too, were it not for the memories that still linger, ghost-like, in the back of my brain. The large lake at the Linton's estate. The taste of raspberry lemonade in the long, luxurious summers. Fingers against my skin running through my hair, tracing patterns against my own collarbone. The sensation of lips against my own, but they were not mine. They were Cornelia's, and these are her memories, and I have no business clinging onto them like this. But I can't help myself. When she possessed me, our beings merged. I hold within me all of what she did, in duplicate, sepia-tinted, yes, but still there, nevertheless. These borrowed memories are already starting to slip away piece by piece, dispersing into my dreams whenever I close my eyes at night, but they're not gone yet. If I close my eyes and winkle my brow and concentrate as hard as I can bring these images to the forefront of my mind once more. I know what it feels like to be kissed on the forehead, the nose, the cheeks, the neck, the lips by the girl I love, but I've never been kissed before, not truly. It makes me curious. What would it feel like? I glance at Hattie from beneath my lashes. She notices, and I flush. Is there something wrong? Do I have something on my face? No, that's not it. I'm just thinking. Of what? A memory. 2 girls, drenched in the rain, startled by the sudden downpour. One of them laughs, delighted. The other sighs, wringing out her hair. They bicker back and forth until they appear to reach some kind of truce. A cold embrace, with damp clothes and damp bodies. Fingers run through hair, teasing out lank locks, brushing raindrops away from pale cheeks. Lips meet together. Their mouths are hot. It's not my memory. It's not something I should be remembering. I should try to forget it, ignore it, but I can't. Hattie, Yes, what is it? I wasn't joking earlier. I really do think you're pretty, you know. You're being weirdly sentimental today. You haven't been diagnosed with a terminal disease, have you? What? No. Why would you think that? Because you're being all impulsive lately, taking more chances. Isn't that what people do when they find out they're going to die soon? She's got a point. Or when they win the lottery? Hattie frowns. Hey, Toma. If you've won the lottery and haven't told me, I'll be really annoyed. I want those 5 pounds back now, with interest. Ha 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 ha. I start to laugh, and I give Hattie a small push. So look at that small push stuff, huh? She almost overbalances, but she's able to right herself at the last moment.
Of course I haven't won the lottery. I'm not even old enough to buy a ticket. And the terminal disease? No, I don't have a terminal disease. At least, I don't think so. I frowned, newly serious, my nose wrinkling. Is it really that weird that I want to pay you a compliment? She isn't trying to brush me off because she isn't feeling awkward, is she? I don't want to make Hattie uncomfortable. She's one of my only friends. That's why I didn't tell her how I felt, even when I found myself thinking of her at odd moments and missing her when she wasn't around. I didn't want her to abandon me. I still don't. But if it's Hattie, I should try to have more faith. I never had any faith in myself, but she's remained my friend for almost a decade, longer than half my life. I don't think she'd like me any less if I told her now how I felt. She might think it's a little strange, and she might not understand, but I don't really understand it either. Maybe I don't need to. I don't know if Emmeline and Cornelia did. Why does everything have to happen for a reason? Why can't things just happen? We humans think too much, all of us, so we become our own worst enemies, always planning and preparing but never advancing. I'm tired of that. Spurred on by the memories of Emmeline and Cornelia, I'm able to gather my courage. It's still small, weak, and there isn't much of it, but it's mine all the same, and it matters. I matter. My feelings matter. Hattie, I look at my lap, my face light pink. My voice sticks in my throat for a moment, but it is only for a moment. I don't want to back down now. I've liked you for a while, maybe for a few months, or maybe longer, I don't know. I think maybe I like you as more than a friend. And, you might think this is strange, but, well, I'm sorry. I'm a strange person, so you should be used to it. Nope. There's a small silence broken only by the sound of falling rain. I can hear my heart beating inside my chest, underneath my shirt. What does she think? What kind of expression is she making? I want to lift my head to see, but at the same time, I'm scared. Though I managed to confess, that doesn't mean I'm not afraid. I'm more afraid than ever. But it feels like a weight has been lifted off my chest, and that makes me feel like this was all worthwhile. Even if nothing else comes of this, I'm satisfied. I don't need anything more. That's what I try to tell myself, but... These thoughts vanish as soon as I feel a soft, warm sensation envelop my right hand. Hattie? Hey, it's alright. I know you're strange. That's why I like you. You don't need to apologize for it. So does that mean you... Yeah, I like you too, Tama. You do? She nods. But you're always reading those old romance stories, so I thought you prefer a Mr. Darcy or a Mr. Rochester. I like romance stories because they're stories. Grumpy old men aren't really my thing. Aren't girls much prettier? Huh. That's definitely true. I like girls more too. At least I think I do. My words are wavering and unsure, but the presence of Hattie's fingers around mine is comforting and helps to calm my heartbeat. I could get used to this. I want to make memories like this. Lots and lots of memories, all my own, just for me. This confession might be a bit understated. My emotions revealed at a grotty bus stop on an overcast day spattered with rain, but that's alright with me.
It's not like the love that blossomed between Cornelia and Emmeline on summer days by the lake sipping on raspberry lemonade, but why should it be? This is my life, and I'll live it like I want. The past is interesting, and I'm thankful to all my relatives who came before me, who made me who I am. But that is all they did. They shouldn't influence how I act as well. Anxious, shy, tentative, but nevertheless determined, I tip my head and press my lips against Hattie's. The rain around me continues to fall, drumming against the roof of the bus shelter. The two of us sit there silently, sharing our first kiss, waiting for a bus that might never come. And I hope it doesn't. I want this moment to last forever. Alright, so that was the story of Emmeline Burns. I thought it was over a while ago, before the whole romance between Hattie and Toma. But it continued on a little bit longer there. Was definitely a long playthrough here to play it all in one video, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You'll have to leave it down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think out of it. Did you get anything out of it? Did you enjoy it? Please let me know down in the comments below. This certainly isn't my typical game playthrough, but every once in a while I'll play a game like this on, you know, the feminine side of the line, shall we say. I want to go ahead and thank you guys all for watching. This has been Zaxter99. Be sure you rate my video if you would. Be sure you comment down below. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it. You know what kind of thoughts or emotions this story gave you. And be sure you subscribe to me as well. Be sure you share this video with anybody else you think might enjoy it as well. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. This has been Zaxter99. We'll see you in the next video.